Russian military has meanwhile admitted that Starlink satellite internet terminals it uses in its war against Ukraine.
Russia has just been brutally cut off from Starlink. In a fraction of a second, Putin's army went blind on the most technological battlefield in history. While you are watching this video, Ukraine is taking advantage of this blackout to launch devastating counterattacks in Zaporizhzhia and retake its territories. But make no mistake, reclaiming ground is only a facade. What we are observing is a radical tactical shift that is about to crush the 715,000 Russian soldiers present on Ukrainian soil. To the untrained observer, this looks like a simple counteroffensive to liberate the southeast. This is partly true because without Starlink, the Russian army is plunged into darkness. It is the perfect moment to strike. But the reality is much darker for the Kremlin. Kyiv's objective is not only to push back the front line, but to transform every retaken village into a technological kill zone where Russia will lose tens of thousands more men simply trying to hold its position. Why is this Starlink withdrawal causing massive waves of friendly fire within Russian ranks? And above all, what is this new Ukrainian fortification strategy that is turning gray zones into actual human meat grinders? If Ukraine succeeds in its gamble, Putin's summer offensive could become the greatest military disaster of the century. We are going to reveal the secret plan behind these counterattacks. But first, we must understand the late January atrocity that pushed Elon Musk to sever the Russian army's umbilical cord. On January 27th, a Russian attack drone struck a passenger train in northeastern Ukraine.
A Russian drone strike on a passenger train has killed at least 5 people in Ukraine's northeastern Kharkiv region.
This was no mistake. It was a deliberate terror strike that left 5 civilians dead in the Kharkiv region. Zelensky angrily denounced this act as pure terrorism, with no military purpose. The world took note, but one man acted: Elon Musk. Following this assault, SpaceX was ordered to cut Russian access to the satellites. Ukrainian terminals remained whitelisted, while Russian terminals, often acquired illicitly, were blacklisted or marked as priority targets. The effect was catastrophic. According to David Hambling for Forbes, some Russian units lost 90% of their internet communications. Imagine the closed-loop fire system, which allowed a drone to direct artillery in 3 minutes, totally imploded. The delay increased to over 20 minutes. This deadly lag is an eternity. Russian soldiers, unable to find their way without digital maps, began firing on each other, lost in the Ukrainian wilderness. But this chaos is only the red carpet rolled out for the new Ukrainian assault force. And what they are doing with their American Abrams tanks is not what you think. To exploit this chaos, Ukraine has deployed what expert David Axe calls a powerful assault force. We aren't talking about simple territorial troops here, but elite units backed by Western mechanized assets. On the front line, the famous American M1A1 Abrams tanks, flanked by Swedish PBV-302 infantry fighting vehicles. Their mission is surgical: clear the gray zones of the Dnipropetrovsk and Zaporizhzhia regions. These no-man's lands have become the theater of a shadow war where Russia uses perfidy, a war crime consisting of disguising soldiers as civilians to lead ambushes. Without Starlink to coordinate these infiltrators, Ukraine decided to methodically purge every square kilometer. The results were immediate. Between February 8th and 11th, a series of search and strike operations liberated the villages of Kosivtseva, Ternuvare, and Pridorozhna. In Kosivtseva, Russian infiltrators, deprived of all contact with their command, found themselves trapped in what Ukraine calls kill zones. Isolated, panicked, not knowing if reinforcements were coming, they were flushed out one by one. But beware, retaking these settlements is not an end in itself. It is only the capping of a multi-day campaign aimed at securing a very specific strategic axis. Look closely at the map. The front now extends for about 30 kilometers, starting from north of the logistics hub of Huliaipol to the city of Pokrovsk in Donetsk. Russian forces, notably the 127th Motorized Rifle Division, had achieved a slow advance before winter. They held a line parallel to the Haichur River. By regaining control of this bank, Ukraine is not looking to dash toward the Sea of Azov. It is looking to lock down access to Pokrovsk. As analyst Clement Moulin explains, the absolute priority is to secure the Haichur River to buy time. Why? To erect a concrete wall that the Russians will never be able to cross. This is where the strategy becomes brilliant. Ukraine knows it has a numerical disadvantage. It cannot afford a heroic charge that would cost too many lives. Instead, it is transforming these liberated villages into nodal defense hubs. But while the Kremlin prepares a massive new offensive for the summer of 2026 with its last strategic reserves, Ukraine is preparing a welcome that Putin did not foresee. We will see in a moment how Dragon's Teeth and smart minds will turn the Russian offensive into a collective suicide, because the figure of 715,000 Russian soldiers actually hides a deadly mathematical weakness. Why this obsession with fortifications? Because Ukraine learned the bloody lessons of 2024. After the fall of Avdiivka, the lack of defensive lines in the rear left troops vulnerable. Today, the change is radical. The Association of Ukrainian Developers has already finalized underground networks connecting 12 nodal positions over several kilometers. We aren't talking about simple ditches, but a multi-layered defense. Dragon's Teeth to block armor, smart anti-personnel mines, and miles of electrified barbed wire. The goal is to create firing funnels. Ukraine is no longer trying to stop the Russian wave head-on. It is channeling it into destruction pockets, where artillery and FPV drones can carry out a surgical massacre without risking a single Ukrainian soldier. According to the ISW, Institute for the Study of War, the Kremlin is preparing a massive offensive for the summer of 2026, targeting Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, and the Kharkiv-Zaporizhzhia axis. But there is a major problem that Putin is ignoring. His reserves are qualified as limited. To compensate, Russia is sending men to the front with only 10 days of training. This is where the Ukrainian strategy of defense by attrition makes perfect sense. In 2025, this method already cost Russia 415,000 casualties for derisory territorial gains. In 2026, Ukraine has a new target figure, bringing Russian losses to 50,000 per month. It is a matter of cold mathematics. Russia manages to recruit about 30,000 men per month. By inflicting 50,000 losses in the same time frame, Ukraine creates a structural deficit of 20,000 soldiers every month. This is no longer a war of territory. It is a war of atrophy. As Seth G. Jones from CSYS points out, Russia bears the brunt of the burden because it is the aggressor. Without Starlink to coordinate its assaults, and facing modern fortifications, the 715,000 Russian soldiers are not an army of conquest. They are a resource that is inexorably depleting. By securing the southeast and transforming gray zones into fortresses, Ukraine has undergone a historic shift in mindset. It is no longer in survival mode. It is in strategic execution mode. The trap is set, the concrete is dry, and the sky is saturated with drones just waiting for a signal. For the 715,000 Russian soldiers, 2026 will not be the year of glory promised by Putin, but the one where they will pay the price for his blindness. The question is no longer whether the Russian offensive will take place, but how long it will take for Putin's hourglass to run out completely. You now know the facts, but strategy is always open to interpretation. Subscribe so you don't miss the next breakdowns, and share your perspective in the comments. Because the analysis doesn't end with this video, it begins with you.